My brain used to call me a stupid girl over something as small as a typo. Even doing a favor for a neighbor, it was effing loser idiot, just because it wasn't perfect. So if you feel stuck, like you've got a bully in your head, stick with me. We'll be covering 3 things. First, where does that bully come from? Why does it feel so convincing? A 3-step process to meet it in the moment, and a 30-second response that resets how we understand that voice using psychology and neuroscience. By the end, you're going to have a 7-day plan to start rewiring your brain. But here's the part that messed with me so much when I started looking at this. What if that voice isn't you at all? What if it's something you learned from your parents, your culture, and your environment? You had no choice in that. What does that mean for us? Stanford researchers actually studied this, literally compared people's voices across countries. What they found wasn't something that you would expect to matter for people just trying to be kinder to themselves. In some countries, the voice sounds like a helpful, supportive guide. And in other countries, it sounds more like a violent drill sergeant. Maybe you can guess which countries are associated with which. I don't understand why more people aren't talking about this, because if you think the way that you talk to yourself doesn't influence your life, the opportunities you get, just wait till you hear this, because there's an even crazier study that we'll go over later. So, in the West, voices are the drill sergeants, violent. In Ghana and India, what they found is that the voice was more godlike. It was supportive. So instead of what's wrong with you, you always mess it up. You're so embarrassing. Everyone hates you, which would encourage paranoia and shame. Instead, the voice would say, this is happening for you. This is a blessing, encouraging people to do good. So depending on what voice you hear, that dictates the quality of your life. Same human brain, completely different relationship with that inner voice. So just remember, it's not your fault. You're not broken. It is the culture you so happen to have trained your mind with. So let's pause here, because if we didn't have choice as what we listen to in our head as kids, what does that tell you about your childhood? What does it tell you about the belief systems that you've inherited without choice? And this leads us to the reason of why it sounds so convincing, why it won't shut up. When you're little, your brain isn't built to fact check the people you depend on. You don't choose what you absorb, you simply download it. So if a voice was repeated to you enough when you were young, your brain doesn't treat it like, oh, I need to review this and see. It treats it like, this is me, this is identity. But it's not your fault. That is literally the capabilities available to your brain at those younger ages. That is why the inner critic can feel so familiar and intense, like it already knows the exact wounds to put salt on and hit, and why it won't shut up. It thinks by continuing the cycle, continuing the thought loop you've told yourself for years and years, it's keeping you alive, because then it's protecting your identity. So this isn't just self-talk, it's training. And while you might notice sadness come up when you think about what that means for child you, just remember these 2 important things. You're not defective, you're not broken. And 2, what was trained can be retrained. If you learn something, that means you can unlearn it. Now, if you think, words don't matter and they can't hurt you, then you need to listen to this, because scientists have also proved that this isn't theory. And warning, this next study is very unethical, but it does undeniably show just how powerful words are and how labels can change the course of your life. And then after this, I'll give you the 30-second response that resets it, that takes it from being a knee-jerk reaction into a wise response. So, in the 1940s, psychologists took children and they did something brutal. Kids were repeatedly told that there was something wrong with their speech in the experimental group. And they mixed children who actually did have speech impediments with children that were fluent. So one group got fear labels and the other group got confident labels. So if you're thinking what the actual, you're right, the impact on participants was lifelong. And the study was kept secret for years. And when it finally did come out, the university paid compensation to the children that survived. So what actually happened that the university had to pay out nearly $1 million to each child? The damage wasn't just hurt feelings. The kids in the experimental group became more self-conscious, anxious, withdrawn, reluctant to speak, especially public speaking. Some even developed clinically severe stutters. Not because they were born broken or wrong, but because they were trained to feel unsafe speaking. The other group, who had the confident labels and really encouraging feedback, they went on to have incredible qualities of lives, and the kids that did have speech impediments dissolved them. The point is that labels train fear. Words don't just hurt. Words train your body to think that speaking is safe or unsafe. So if someone else's words can train a child into lifelong fear and isolating habits as an adult, what does that mean for you? What do the words you repeat to yourself and train your body to expect and respond to on a daily basis, so the same hormones, actions every single day? What do your words do to you every day? And here's the good news. You don't need to fight the voice anymore. You just need to interrupt it at the right moment. And the approach isn't what you might expect. It's the opposite. And a curious thing is also how we understand the voice in our head. So in the West, we're taught to fight the voice, but also that the voice is smart, that it's truth. And God forbid you tell people that you are talking to yourself, they'll say you're crazy. But the only difference is with a crazy person is they're saying it out loud, whereas you just keep the voice in your head silent. So there's not really that much difference. And in other cultures, they understand that. They see the voice as just one perspective amongst infinite perspectives. So they can ask it questions, they can listen to it differently, and they experience life differently. Most people mess this up because when the bully voice hits or they notice it, they try to argue with it, tell it to go away or to shut up or to stop. And then it gets louder because it thinks it's protecting you from danger. And in times of danger, negotiating, logic, rationalizing isn't what your brain listens to. Your brain listens to alarms. So instead of fighting it, what about translating it? Changing the relationship with it so it stops being understood as source, it stops being your voice, your identity, and it just becomes this old pattern you notice from an earlier time and you choose to let go of. So now you have a new definition and understanding of the origin of the voice in your head. Let's look at the exact sentence to use or response when the bully voice hits. And this will change how you feel in your body and give you more freedom. Here's what to say. And literally, let's try it. So say it out loud because I want you to literally try it with me because this is what helps rewiring pathways in your brain. That's why I've stood up. I've given myself an interruption, a disruption. So my brain is like, this is important. And there's one rule that makes this so much more powerful. Try and catch it on the first hit of that inner critic. Not 5 minutes into the spiral. When the voice says, stupid, loser, you always mess this up, you say, I hear you. You're trying to protect me from shame, rejection, fear. But that isn't true now. That was then when I was a child and I needed protection. Now I'm a wise, capable adult. I'm choosing not to indulge in this familiar thought. Some things don't go as intended. And in those moments, I learn, I let go, and I keep moving forward. This is the pattern I'm choosing to grow. This is the pattern I'm choosing to let go. That's it. It's around 30 seconds. And notice just what happened. You didn't fight your mind. You recognize that the voice isn't you. You're bigger than the voice. The creator is always bigger than what it produces. You just took the microphone back and acknowledged what was a radio. So why does that calm your body so fast? And that part is the real cheat code. The bully voice is not giving truth. It's a radar to spot danger, literally. And your body obeys alarms, even if the danger isn't actually there. So if your identity is mixed up with that internal danger threat radar, what's going to happen? That's why one sentence can hijack your whole system, your posture, your decisions. If you think you're just having a thought, your body might be thinking this is a critical emergency and flooding your system with hormones that you don't want. And if you want this to stick, here's a simple method to remember. The 3 C's: connect, curious, choose. Connect. Name it out loud or in your head and remember it's not you. There it is, the bully voice. Not me, a pattern, one perspective. This creates a bit of distance, it depersonalizes it. So next, we can be curious. We can ask the question that changes everything. What is this trying to protect me from? Shame, rejection, getting in trouble, not belonging? And then choose. What choices do we have? The translation, so your 30-second response. Now you've turned an attack into intelligence, information that you can use. But you might be thinking, what if this voice in my head has been there for 20 years? Can I still change it? And yes, but to help your brain remember, to help it stick, this isn't about a perfect mindset. It's about timing and repetition. Every time you interrupt it, especially at the first hit, you're telling your nervous system, this isn't true. We are safe. We're not doing violence self to self anymore because everything's okay. I've got this. So to make this unfairly effective for yourself, pick one bully phrase that you hear the most. A lot of times we'll want to document every single phrase and whatnot, but just prioritize this one phrase for 7 days because your brain learns by repetition and it unlearns the same way. And by prioritizing one phrase, you'll be tending the others in tandem. Imagine it this way. Imagine a tall field of wheatgrass. You've walked the same path for years and years, so it's a clean, easy, automatic, and that's your old reaction. Trying to change it, stepping off, is like stepping into that high, tall wheatgrass. It's effortful, it's awkward, you might get cut. Creating a new path is like chopping through all that tall grass with your little feet, one step at a time, until eventually that new way has been walked so much it becomes the default. So the old path starts to grow over, it's less easy to walk that path, and your brain works like that too. It's neuroplastic. It can stretch, it can change, especially when you give it repetition and reflection, because reflection tells us what's true. Okay, quick experiment. When you mess up, your brain says, I always, and then you finish the sentence. Whatever you just filled in, that I always, this, when I mess up, just pause. This is your brain actually showing you your belief system. It's turning one moment into an identity. It's trying to take a temporary experience and mean something permanent about who you are, but it can't. So next time, instead of I always mess up, you say, that was one learning, here's what I learned, and here's what I'm leaving behind. This is what I knew then, this is what I knew now. That's how we make this practical. So this is the sky and roots truth. You become repeatedly what you live inside. Kinder self-talk isn't soft. It's training your body to feel supported enough to be able to grow, to try new things. And your brain and body can't tell the difference between real danger and imagined danger. So now you get to reflect. You get to turn that into a strength. And if you've ever wondered why healing feels slow or change, it's because you're trying to build a new life while verbally attacking the builder. That is why this matters. And the weirdest part is this bully voice isn't trying to destroy you. Nature doesn't work like that. This voice thinks it's trying to protect you with all its might, with the worst possible language, because it's trying to get your attention. This is why just be positive, just love yourself never works. We're not just replacing thoughts. We're retraining relationships. So, in summary, what we've covered today: origin. Where did the bully voice come from? Training, culture, environment, repetition. It feels so familiar, like it's you, because the relationship you were trained into becomes the one that feels like home. Even when it's cruel, our brain prefers familiarity. So changing that will feel scary. Moment, what do you do when it hits? You translate it. You don't battle it, because acceptance opens curiosity, and curiosity opens up choice. And then response. I hear you. You're trying to protect me from an earlier time, shame, rejection, fear. That was then, when I was a child. Now, I'm a wise, capable adult. I learn, let go, keep moving forward. This is the pattern I'm choosing to grow. So you are not broken. You're retraining what your body called safe for 20, 30 years. Any feedback or comments, I would love to hear, and I will see you in the next video.